What I'm going to do today is tell my very personal perspective on how this went for NVIDIA. And so I'm going to do this in two parts. The first part of the talk is what is NVIDIA today, in terms of how we've kind of been leading the hardware side of the machine learning revolution. And then a history of the technology that led to that and the technology transfer from work that was done at Caltech and MIT at Stanford to NVIDIA. And just as importantly, the people that were transferred along the way, that were trained in these government-funded research programs. This is the figure I'm going to refer to several times. And I think this is really what has made America great, what's given the United States technology leadership in many areas, is a pattern that really started when Vannevar Bush wrote his Endless Frontier article and basically started a pattern of the government funding university research, which led to two really great outcomes. The first was train people. And by the way, a really good part of this trained people outcome is it also attracted the smartest people from all over the world to come to the United States. And many of them stayed. And that just increased our intellectual capital. The brain drain of all these other countries became our brain gain. And it's made the U.S. a much more productive place. And then the other thing that came out of a lot of this government-funded research was technology. And I'll point to particular technology developments that led to where we are. So the Imagine project was DARPA funded at Stanford. And I put myself on the list because I came out of an earlier DARPA funded project, which really sort of taught me much of what I know about parallel computing. Ujjwal Kapasi, Brusek Kawani are both at NVIDIA now. John Owens is a professor at UC Davis. Jung-Ho Ahn is a professor in Korea. Abhishek Das is at a startup. They were all trained basically through this government funded program. Many of them were part of Merrimack as well. I'm not putting duplicates in here, but several of these people. Matan's a professor at UT Austin. I've lost touch with a couple of them. Many of them are actually at NVIDIA, like Ian. And basically, the government-funded research was invaluable in training these people. They would not have picked up these valuable skills, whether it's for stream processing or not, otherwise. Similarly for the development of the Brook language. So it's really, really critically important that we keep this pipeline going so we have smart people coming out and feeding our workforce needs in industry. But the other part is key technologies. And so both parallel computing and a lot of really fundamental research in interconnection networks came out of the Cosmic Cube project, DARPA funded. The really efficient synchronization and communication mechanisms that are used to this day in multi-computer networks came out of the J-Machine project, which was DARPA funded. The basics of stream processing, the notion of kernels and streams and getting kernel locality and producer-consumer locality came out of the Imagine project, which is DARPA funded. And then, with the impetus of not getting a failing grade on our DOE program review, we basically pivoted and did a scientific computing version of that, and the Brook programming language, Brook GPU, and the origins of GPU computing really came out of that project. Deep neural networks is hard to credit because, like I said, the algorithms have been around for a long time, and so I don't know who funded those original projects. I do remember back when I was on the faculty at MIT that there were a lot of people playing with it, although at that point in time, expert systems were the more in vogue way of doing AI. But I think it was really key that all these technologies were developed, in the U.S., and I think it's really led to a lot of U.S. Technology leadership in this area. So that's kind of my very personal story of this. You can read about how government, university, and industry partnerships have worked in a lot of other areas by reading the Tire Tracks report. So if you stop funding students and the students stop coming out, you're not going to. It's not like the stock market's going to crash tomorrow. It almost would be better if it did, and then people would say, "Oh, the stock market crashed. You have to reverse that." But no, I think what will happen is we'll be ceding technology leadership, and in particular to some of our rival countries who are investing very heavily in it, and I think they'll wind up being the ones where the next several breakthroughs in the next several dominant industries occur, and that won't be a good thing for the United States.